Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So first of all, thanks, Michael, Jason, for having us. This event is really special. I speak at many events around the world, but this is sort of family, so I really like this. I'm here just to share insights, global learnings. What do we see? We have the advantage of being in many, many markets, seeing what's happening. And as you were saying, domestic tends to look a lot of what's happening here. So hopefully I can share some things of what we're doing, what we're seeing internationally, and you can then take those back to your operations and hopefully implement it. So my objective is really to share and inspire. I not only speak as a designer here, we're also operators. In some of the previous presentations, we shared our innovation labs. We've now grown, though, to a number of markets and keep growing them, so we actually can test anything and everything in our own restaurants before applying it to our clients, which is really interesting. So sharing the challenges that you guys have in our own brands is very important for us. I think, it's really nice to see so many clients that become friends over the years in the audience, and I want to take the opportunity to thank you for the trust over these years. But we're not only trusted by a lot of multi-unit operators. We also have the advantage of sort of being at the forefront of the future of hospitality. So we're doing some very, very interesting projects. And I'm going to kick off today with a short video of a project called Neom, which is basically a new country being built in Saudi Arabia, where we are tasked with defining what the future of hospitality is. So I'll kick it off with a short video.
A revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint, designing to protect and enhance nature. The line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions within 5-minute walk neighborhoods. Travel end to end in 20 minutes. Designed by world-leading architects, the line is 500 meters tall, 200 meters wide, 170 kilometers long, and housed within an elegant mirror glass facade. The line is designed as a series of unique communities, providing equitable views and immediate access to the surrounding nature. At the heart of the globe's key trade routes, a place for commerce and communities to thrive. The Line, the city that delivers new wonders for the world.
So imagine the brief, right? We're designing a building that's hosting 9 million people, basically taking the whole of Manhattan square footage into one building and create the future of hospitality and the future of restaurants. How are these communities going to live? How are they going to thrive? So it's really interesting to go all the way from tangible business in terms of multi-unit scalable operations to being part of defining what the future really is. Just as a reference of scale, cruise ships can actually go through this building. It seems utopia. This is being built. I was there 3 weeks ago. It's really happening, right? So stay tuned for more. Hopefully, every time I come, I'll keep you updated on what it's looking like. So that brings me to one thing that I think, as an architect and many designers in the room, after a couple of years of pandemic and inflation and increased capex costs, etc., what we've seen this year is that design is back. Design has become really important, more so internationally than on the domestic side. We still haven't seen it this much here, but it's coming. Really, guests want to get back and have physical experiences. We were just talking about that. So, what we looking at is brands that internationally are really leading with design. I'll start with Arabica coffee out of Kyoto, started 2014, but really, has gone to 35 countries in less than 10 years. So by a raise of hands, how many of your brands are in more than 35 countries? Starbucks, McDonald's, a few, all right? This is hard. This is really hard. So basically taking design as the main lead instrument to create something in a niche where it's quite saturated coffee, right? So looking at every store, completely individual designs, really fascinating, whether they're really small stores or big flagship stores, this is really the driver. And we're seeing this more and more. And it's not only sort of these Instagrammable concept. This is ELN from London that is also, gone to 11 countries in only 5 years. So, have retail products in Harvey Nichols, or, open up in Europe, in the Middle East, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of growth potential for these design-driven brands. And this takes me to the rise of international concepts. I'm old enough to have seen the 80s and the 90s where the US-led brand was also always expanding internationally. We've seen most of the US brands being the leaders in categories, especially QSR and fast casual. That we're seeing a significant change. So how many of you have seen Luckin Coffee? All right, how many of you have visited? Excellent. So look at these numbers, right? This, we're talking, KFC, that's been many years, was the first brand coming into China, has 9,700 stores, right? McDonald's, 5,700. Subway only has 700. The size, these guys have done 9,000 stores in 6 years, right? This is what the stores looks like. They're now even served spiked coffee in it, really adapting to local markets. Very, very interesting to follow. So we are now seeing a lot of international brands coming to the US. Jollibee's, we're now working with Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf Company, which is part of the group, coming into the US. We see, Coffee Fellows has opened twice the amount of stores than Starbucks in Germany. So there's some interesting players that are coming. Marugami out of Japan, 1,700 stores are now here with one of their brands. So we're going to see more and more of international brands coming into the US. We see this with, the hype of chicken, right? Everyone's talking about Wingstop. And we were working in the UK where, you had go from $1 million AUV to 3 million. How do you adapt to international markets? How do you change your operations in sort of those ways? And it's 2,000 stores, How many of you have visited Nini Chicken? 1,600 stores. Pelicana, 3,000 stores. BBQ, 3,500 units. These are big companies, big chains with deep pockets, and all of them are already in the US. So there's more to come around this. The expansion plans for many of those of our clients are 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 stores, and they have the capital to do it. The other thing that I wanted to share is, and we're also talking about this, international being sort of the design driver for even for many US domestic brands, right? What happens internationally sort of goes under the radar, so we can do more fun things and experiment. And then you go to a conference and somebody from domestic sees what we're doing internationally and brings it back to the US, right? Everything is done in the US that has all eyes on it. So this is one of our clients, Siki, where I think this is Japan or Madrid, where really design is being upgraded. The expectations internationally on design are higher and higher. So this is one example. This is Deco's 3,000 stores now in China, which is basically competing with KFC. But compare this design to the KFC design. So there's a lot of this upward movement in design happening. Not only QSR, fast casual, this is our latest prototype for Freebirds in Texas, sort of elevating experiences and creating better physical environments. And that, if we go back to Europe, we're seeing, fast casual multi-experiences. This is La Felicita in Paris, 25,000 square feet, over 1,000 seats, 5 different kitchens, but it's one concept. You order everything from one app, can order from different places. So the design-led experiences of this group, this is it's a group called Big Mama. I was with the founders last week. We were actually acquired as of last week by McWin, which is a fund that now spent $1 billion in Europe. It was created by Henry McGovern, who was running Amherst. You might be familiar with them. So Big Mama Group has been acquired with a valuation of $330 million with 23 units, right? Not bad. So what is interesting is that when you look at this menu, the most expensive dish on this menu is the Josper oven, grilled sea bass, and it's $23. So really is a value experience, basically taking fast casual operations into a fine dining environment, but keeping operational efficiency and quality of product. The other trend we're seeing is the comeback or expansion of co-branding. This is a design we've done for Dubai, where we're combining Applebee's and IHOP. So really mixing to enhance day parting. So Dodo is a brand that has 1,000 units pizza. It's now combining with another brands that they've created, which is the Drink It coffee. So understanding how can I maximize day parting and put it into the same store. So actually, experimenting even with digital counters. So your name shows up when you pick up your order. And you have one side for Drink It, which is coffee, and one side for Dodo pizza. So a lot of interesting tech innovations in the same space, but ultimately you're paying rent 24 hours, you have your team members there, why not maximize the use of them? And if 2 was not enough, I was going to say high 5, but it's high 6. This is a very interesting project we've done. It's in San Diego, Mission and Garnet. So basically, as you know, a lot of the big boxes, are closing down and shutting down. So we took a Denny's that has 6,200 square feet, and we created 6 brands within the same building with only 1 kitchen and shared facilities. So it looks a bit like this. Here you see there's a taco, there's burritos, there's a salad concept, there's a churros concept. And what's really interesting is that for the guest, they're completely individual brands with individual storefronts. But for the operations, it's just 1 kitchen. So you can see that one back of the house really serves all the different concepts out there. And we think this is a trend that's going to follow. It's a great way of maximizing usage of existing large assets. And there's more and more of those available in the market. So you have 6 concepts, but you don't need 6 restrooms and 6 dry storage and 6 walk-in coolers, et cetera, et cetera. The other trend we're seeing this not only in the QSR space, we're seeing it also in the fine dining space. This is Sketch, has been around for 20 years in London, actually has 3 different restaurants within the same building. One of them even has 3 Michelin stars. So it's not just on the fast casual, on the QSR side, we're seeing it in the fine dining as well, right? Where you can really have and choose different experiences going to a destination. Another trend that I wanted to bring up is a new segment. And there's a crazy race to win this client. It hasn't come to the US yet, but it's the charging stations. It's booming internationally. It is a new occasion where guests need to have 15 or 20 minutes. It's not the petrol station experience. You go in 60 seconds, you grab something, and then you leave. People are planning their trips around not only where can I charge, how much can I charge, but what's the food there. So we're seeing new competitors, Audi with their cafes. Most of the players in the electrical field are doing the same, and we're doing a lot of very, very interesting projects. And the behavioral shift is interesting. This is the graph up in Norway. These are the sales in 2022 of electric vehicles, is 90%. You can expect it. It's a wealthy country. What's really interesting is Italy. Last year, they moved from 10% of sales to 100% of the cars sold in Italy were electric or hybrid. So you imagine the amount of new business that's coming our way. So a lot of this is going to happen. Not only brands are putting charging stations in it, it's really charging stations becoming competitors. Another thing we're seeing is brands getting into the F&B space. A lot of new competition. Last time I was here, I spoke about new competitors coming into our space. Here we have Restoration Hardware, and we have Tiffany's, and we have Louis Vuitton, and this to the one to the right is Burberry. Everyone is jumping into it. As retail sales decline, a lot of retailers are moving into F&B as a solution. And there's a lot of co-branding opportunities as well and partnership between our restaurants and those players. I'm going to share with another project we've done, talking about brands partnering and going into F&B. This is a project we've done with Real Madrid. Brands that are not in this space have 600 million followers, where we create F&B concepts. This is actually a premiere. We're opening it next week in Mexico City, but there's 250 units in the pipeline globally, where a brand that has nothing to do with our industry is coming into this space. So we're doing a lot of these interesting projects with existing brands. We've seen it with Netflix, new competition. They're doing Netflix Bites and, want to capture market share, going into the physical experiences. The hunger, I guess you've seen it, this one store that has a line in between. It's actually one store, and one is completely white and the other is completely dark, but it's one experience. So you can actually sit on the same table, half the table is white and the other is dark. But really creating physical experiences is important. And as always, not only I'm talking about the design trends, I also want to share, as Jason was saying, there's so much happening on the tech space and the toolbox just keeps getting bigger. It's really hard to catch up. Since the last year, ChatGPT was launched in November. It hasn't even been a year, and we saw it. Everyone is using it, and it will impact basically everything we're doing. So large language models are going to be everywhere. There are very few things in our industry that will not be impacted by it. I'm going to share some of the examples, but always when I come, I want to leave you with a goodie. So at the end of the presentation, we created a ChatGPT usage guide for restaurants with a lot of prompts, so you can give it to your teams and they can actually really start implementing things that a lot of our big clients are already doing. So this is done, we actually run a course at the university. This is done completely. This image does not exist and has not a drawing, not a SketchUp, not a modeling. This image has been created only by prompting. And we're now prompting voiceover. So we can talk to the system and say, give me more light, add another window, change the camera lens. So we are going into a future that we're not designing anymore with CAD and drawings and computers. We are going to talk to computers and for them to design our spaces. The same goes with products. So this is a basic SketchUp model of a product. And then by speaking, we just asked it to enhance it, put flowers around it, make the marble darker, etc., etc. So menu photography, renderings, so many of the components of our business are changing forever. So really, I can't encourage you enough to go and innovate and play with it and test it. The other thing we're doing is looking into the virtual reality, not in the sense of how virtual reality has been used up till now, which is kind of poor, oh, you pick up your phone and you see something happening, or you scan a QR on a menu. It's not about that. We can now create design elements and use Adobe Aero and put them in a video. So we can film a restaurant and see what it would look if we change the bar in a video and show that to a franchisee or show it to a partner without needing to do renderings, to do visualizations or anything like that. So, and you can change that in seconds. So it's really, really fast. We're also seeing more and more generative experiences. So this is a restaurant that opened last week in Dubai, where actually all the walls are digital and they have sensors and movements. So the imagery and art that is displayed on the walls is generative. What you see will never happen again because it changes depending on the behavior of the restaurant. So depending on who's there, what the light is, how many people there are, the art changes. I just, last week, 2 weeks ago, I was in Japan, in Tokyo, and visited the Lab Museum there, which is, the most visited museum. They do $42 million in revenue in one space, just generative art. You move through different areas and the art changes depending on what you do in the space. It's just amazing. And we're going to see that coming more and more our way. This is an example from that space where actually you can draw the kids or you can draw whatever you want, and then it's scanned and it's dropped into the walls. So automatically you can interact with the drawing that you've done the application of this is huge. We've seen it in stores in Chanel where you can actually throw things at the facade of the building, and what you throw up shows on the building. The same goes for the interiors, and you can follow these things. So really the use of generative art for interacting between the guest and the physical environment, which is something that is so hard to do. We've tried a lot, but that is really changing a lot. Another thing is food listening. So we're working with a company called Tastewise in Israel, where we can actually now, listen to what's happening in the market. And there's a spider that really grabs all the menus available, and we can see penetration. I just took cauliflower penetration over time. We can actually see variations with eggplant, with grits, with turkey, with truffle, with sprouts. We can see the number of restaurants that have it, how much they're charging for it, what is the menu growth, and even see the pictures of those elements. Can you imagine the time it would take for you guys to understand the penetration of cauliflower in the US? But not only that, knowing where in the US is penetrating. This is, I took growth in truffles, and you can play with this. I love the ice cream shop growing 1.3%. I don't know who the hell has truffle ice cream, but it's there. So there's so many interesting tools, and what you can now do is combine that with recipes. So you put all your SKUs, and you can track trends in real time in different markets, and AI will automatically take your SKUs and adapt them to add the consumer behavior. So being ahead, we've always been reactive of what's happening. It's very interesting. The same goes with the beverage platforms. AI now can recognize 600,000 wines and do wine pairings, depending on the components and chemical products of your ingredients and your recipes. So really, there's not a sommelier that I know that can know 600,000 wines. And this has just started. I mean, this is going to get better and better and smarter as it learns. Now there's molecular beverages printers. So, understanding the molecules in beverages that give taste. So basically, with one cartridge, you can have thousands of variations of different drinks. So understanding the chemistry of food is also going to enhance the experiences of our clients. As for robots, I always get the question. I still see robots much more of the back of the house, not guest-facing. This is a robot that can do 160 guests. Seen this a lot in cruise ships, for example. Gives stability, can work no matter the waves. So there's some interesting things going on. A lot of show behind, but a lot of operational efficiency behind these type of experiences. We also see it as a theatrical element. This is a doner shack that have robots cutting the meat, and it's interesting because it also saves not only on labor but also on food waste. Right, all the portions are always exact. It's consistent. So you get a lot of that accuracy that humans were not that good at. We're really good at hospitality, and I always say that all technology should actually enhance hospitality. Can we allow technology to take out a lot of repetitive tasks that we do in the restaurants? None of our team members love to do inventory in an Excel sheet or go into the walk-ins and scan things. Computers are much better at doing those kind of things, and we are still much better than computers at this, at meeting people, hospitality. What we see a lot is in the back of the house, in the commissaries and central production kitchens, this equipment that I'm showing you here can do 15,000 dishes per day, and it's completely automated. It cleans itself, it creates the spices, and what's really interesting is that consumers in this restaurant can choose their flavor profile, their spice, completely customize everything of the recipe, and every dish has a QR code and an RFID, so you can track. So you can go into any of the restaurants of this company and actually get exactly your recipe every time. So there's very interesting ways of doing this, specifically when you have central production or commissaries, and it can be combined or just delivered to the restaurants. We've seen obviously China being the leader in this, but coming big time to Europe. I live in Sweden. We pay 28 bucks an hour minimum wage. So everything that allows for back of the house efficiency is very, very popular. So there's a lot of innovation coming into this space, but I still see it, as I said, much more of the back of the house than front of the house robots running around the tables. I think we've all seen the videos of people playing with these things, and even the robots running around delivering on the streets. Good luck in downtown Los Angeles with that. So another question that we get a lot is, all right, this is all good, but I'm not going to build my new kitchen, and I cannot, build a new facility for this. So this is Nala, which is a robotic company that has now created robots to retrofit existing kitchens. So basically, you can put them in any kitchen, and they mimic human movements and human interactions. So I think there's like two routes to go here: either completely creating for new builds, fully automated back of the house elements, or retrofitting existing ones with companies like this. They replicate to perfection. It roughly takes 48 hours for these equipments to get the recipes absolutely right. And once they do it, it's forever. You don't have to change anything. That sort of accuracy is something that humans are not good at. So computer vision is really impacting big time the industry. Some of the things that we are actually using in our own restaurants is heat mapping, understanding what tables are more popular. Is it 2 tops? Is it 4 tops? Is it by the window? And this can actually allow us to redesign future restaurants, but also give automated table management instructions to our team members. So the GMs can get an alert on their iPhone and say, because it's raining, it's Monday, it's payday, and it's a Friday lunch, you should set up the restaurant with 80% 2 tops, 20% 4 tops, for example. So that gives us more butts in seats, which is really interesting. This is an example from McDonald's in the UK, where we can use computer vision to understand how long do cars stay in line before leaving, and even look at the total revenue loss. So then understanding what would be the impact of adding another drive-through lane or bringing somebody out, and on what day parts, what day parts should we bring somebody out to pay for that lost revenue. Also in terms of order accuracy, quality component. We know here, okay, I'm detecting this pizza, the cheese is light, the pepperonis are right, order is not approved. So using technology to supervise what we do allows for de-skilling, which is another huge trend we're seeing. Creating concepts and brands that don't need chefs, that don't need skills. You just hire for attitude. One of the final components is guest. We get a lot of questions around, how can I know my guest? Computer vision has gone so good now that it can actually know who you are with a helmet on. We've done tests with mask, face mask, and sunglasses. We still know who you are. The documentaries when your face is dark and they change your voice? Just with the outline, we can know who that is. It's very, very interesting. So privacy, unfortunately, is gone. But the same goes, we always accept the cookies anyway. So I love they did the GDPR in Europe to protect us. And now, every time you open a website, you have to approve something. It's the same, It was easier before. But also understanding who is our guest, right? So cameras now know our race, how we dress. If we're elegant, you can see, okay, this is business lunch, this is casual. Understanding our guests in volumes. If you have 300, 400, 500 units, really know exactly who the guests and why do they come for. But also know, what are their emotions. So this is going more and more granular into who's our guest, what's their experience. So I'm sorry to leave you with that loss of privacy. And I can talk forever. This is just a fraction of what we do. This is our innovation. We're actually designers at heart, but really passionate about this industry. And I think that as designers, creative developers, you cannot untie these two things. The consumer experience and the technology and the way we work are the same forever. This is not going to change, at least not in a lifetime. So as I promised, if you scan the QR code, you'll be able to download the ChatGPT. I encourage you to send it to your colleagues and use it. And there's a lot more freebies on the website. So with that, and I think I did a great job because I have 10 seconds left on the counter.
I'm very proud of you, Ben. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much for your time and for having me.